I've got huge respect for the Touhou project series because it's a bunch of big gaming fans creating their own anime cinematic universe, usually of bullet hell games, but they've started to branch out into new topics and genres. Gensou Skydrift, initially launched on 2019 for PC, has now made its way to consoles, and this is a kart racing game, if you couldn't tell by the gameplay on the screen. Taking its cue very much from Mario Kart Double Dash, in this game you take control of two anime girls, and literally one girl stands on top of the other and rides her. I would love to have been in the room with whoever came up with this balmy decision. I absolutely love it, and it's one of the best things about the game entirely. But there's a reason why this is quite of a cool mechanic. So each of the girls has their own stats, and you can basically flip who you're riding on the fly with one of the bumper buttons. And so some of them are better at straight line speed, some are good at drifting, some have got better corner skills. And when you flip between them, or whenever you're going over boost pads, you can then launch little mini boosts for yourself. And some of them have got stronger boosts than others. And so when you're looking at the tracks that you're going to be racing at, you kind of pick your girls strategically because you'll want one to deal with maybe one element of the track and one for the other. Some of the tracks are much more speed related, some are more cornery, some require much more precise racing lines where all of the boost pads are, so you pick the girls that are going to work for you. I really like this aesthetic and this kind of gameplay mechanic and strategy that's involved before you even get into the racing itself. And it's just as well because some of the racing, and where I'm going to go to from now, all suffers from a slightly clunky and blocky execution, despite the amount of character that exudes from this game throughout. My first kind of niggle with Gensou Skydrift is around the control scheme, which you can't remap. So because it comes from Japan, they have a different setup to Westerners. So instead of X being like confirmed for everything, it's circle, and that's the same here. But normally when you localize the game, they switch around the controls, but they haven't. But it's also that you only use the face buttons for accelerate, and then X is for braking and for drifting, but you have to hold both at the same time for that to kind of work. And so you're kind of weirdly pushing your thumb or finger kind of backwards again. And I kept on finding new ways to try and hold the controller to make it feel comfortable, and at no point it did. So yeah, it was slightly awkward and annoying for me personally. I didn't feel like I really felt comfortable with the controls. That then pairs with the way how the characters actually work in like the actual racing itself. There's a lack of general precision because speed is prioritised. And so when you're going around corners, a lot of the tracks are designed for you if you've got one of the cornering girls that you're riding, you can make it around a lot of the 90-degree corners without having to brake so much. But the speedier ones you will, and you'll just kind of run out wide and smack the wall. Similarly, you will have to brake for lots and lots of hairpins, and quite often you'll just be bouncing off of things, and sometimes that's actually okay because you'll pick up more speed by being able to bounce off of corners and not being slowed down so much. The AI are doing it too. You can race up to 6 AI on track at once, making it a total of 7 characters that you're actually battling with, although there's actually 12 kind of flying around altogether. And that's all well and good. But the track design, whilst it plays out for multiple routes and so on and so forth, is all around basically hitting these wipeout boost pads that you go around so that you can build up your spell meter. As you're doing that, you'll get mini boosts, which will help you go faster, but once your spell meter is increased, because there's no pickups for weapons in this game, it will then trigger a little roulette wheel that will then give you a randomised weapon or power-up. Some of them will be boosts to go forward, some of them will be mines to drop back or missiles to throw forward, or the one unique spell, or 2 unique spells I guess, that each girl has. One of them seems to be like a low-powered version, and then you've got like the ultimate high-powered version, which normally affects everyone. So like freezing all of the enemies or making them all slow down for a while, or sending out like an electrical pulse, which if you've not got the shield on, you won't be able to bat back, that kind of thing. All quite standard, but nicely implemented, and it means that you don't have to look out for power-ups. You're literally trying to rack up all of these wipeout arrows as you go. The flip side of all of this high speed, high jinxness is that on a couple of the levels, because of the way how the graphics are set up, like it's 2D assets running in 3D by the side, in what I would describe as the endless outrun motorway style of gameplay, of graphics, sorry, where it's just all coming towards you like in a flash. For the first time in years, I had a racing game make me feel car sick or motion sick. I've not had that, like in big spades really, since probably the last game that I can really remember doing it with, it was Speed Racer on the PlayStation 1. I used to be made really ill with that, and my parents made me take the game back. Grr! But yeah, I think getting motion sickness in this kind of game in this day and age is inexcusable, and it's because they're using like small bamboo forest trees and just repeating it so that it starts to become almost like a hypnotic kind of coming towards you. And it made me feel quite sick, so I ended up not playing the bamboo forest levels once I'd unlocked them. Also, because of the way how you're bouncing off of walls and all of that kind of stuff, quite often, especially when you're being targeted with everyone else's spells as well, you'll end up getting that pummeling effect of being hit on over and over and over again and dropping back, and then noticing the rubber banding of the AI. The AI do like to slow down for you, they do like to speed up for you, depending on what you're doing, so there's always a bit of a challenge. You can, though, on some of the circuits, still outperform the rubber banding and get a good 10 seconds ahead. And I found that quite odd and strange as well. Outside of the general racing and the single player experience, which I must add, you need to play story mode twice for you to unlock all of the tracks. You can then play those tracks in online mode, but I couldn't connect to anyone to race with online, so I couldn't test it, unfortunately. So the servers are dead. But I was able to muck about with the time trial mode and the online leaderboards, which drops ghosts onto the screen with your personal bests that you can kind of see what you're doing. And that works really, really well. You have to do 3 laps of each circuit for it to kind of be registered onto the board. But that's where you can explore the multiple routes, finessing exactly which type of character you need to put in each track so that you can kind of get your fastest version of them. You can also do local multiplayer as well, and then it divides the screen up into sections. Didn't have too much options with this either, mainly because I'm on my own in lockdown, so wasn't able to test it out too much. What I ended up doing was putting in loads of controllers and pretending to race myself just to see how the frame rate would keep up, because I was worried that with such a speed of this game, or sense of speed, that there would be slowdown. And there is a little bit when you've got 3 or 4 players going, but not too badly. With 2 players, it's perfectly fine. Going back to positives again though, I did quite like the variety of different tracks and the styles of them. Not only from the aesthetic situation, but some of them were blatantly speed tracks, some were very tight and twisty, some are laps, and some of them are more like toboggan chutes. There's a level called Heaven, for example, where it's just like running from beginning to end, like a bobsleigh on a rainbow for 4 minutes. And I liked the fact that that really just changes up how you approach all of the different tracks as you go along. That being said though, what I would say is that this is not going to be in my top tier of games for kart racers at all. That whole kind of blocky nature of the blocky controls versus the blocky graphics, I still find it quite inexcusable that I've got motion sickness from the game. It just is slightly too rough around the edges for me to say that this is a recommended title. Especially if you're going to try and do some online races, because no one's playing. Outside of that though, if you're looking for a slightly quirky kart racer that you're going to play locally with family and friends, then this would be a tentative recommendation. But there's been some really great kart racing games and even top-down racing games that have come out recently over the last 18 months that I would absolutely prioritise over this game first. That being said, Anime Girl is going to be anime, so if that's your bag, then perhaps this might score a little bit higher for you. A written review will be over on highplanegames.com. Until then, Don't stand on any girls, will ya? Jesus Christ. Take care all. Bye. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Plane Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.